I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be f***ing sour, take a cold shower. Scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder. And f*** all the doubters, they're just your downers. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought.
I can tell you that 7 years after Freddie Gray, that was 2015, spring, April, May. This is 2022. Communities like Sandtown, all we saw then and now in terms of investment was a renovated Western District Police Station and a new funeral home. That's what West Baltimore got. A new police station and a new funeral home. What kind of optics are they? Was Freddie Gray any different than 1968 Baltimore riots? Dr. King's passing, killing, murder? This is the same?
No, it wasn't. I mean, I think, well, first of all, people who are being violent and burning, that's, you know, all that's the same. But the point is what was the cause and what were they attempting to register?
I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm off at these fucking clowns.
I love you.
They deserve an ounce. It's got next. And I'll be for. It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm off at these fucking clowns.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul. Baby, good morning. I hope that you are well. Bonjour to my French-speaking people all over the world, my francophone country. People, bonjour, como se va bien? To my Spanish speakers, hola, buenos dias, como está? Hola, tú tienes un buenos días. Salamu alaikum, kaifahalik, shalom. Yakshimas, if you're in Eastern Europe, Yakshimas, dubzi, bodzi, dubzi. Jambo. West Africa, Jambo. That's how they said it they said it with enthusiasm when I was over in Africa. Jambo. What else we know? Shalom. Hope everything is Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. You know, that Hebrew and that Arabic, they got that hakada thing going on. Eddie Murphy was doing some joking about it. How y'all doing out there? Like we're a little light on the crowd today. Where's everybody? Are you there? Say good morning. Make some noise. Where my people at? So I think I should take a moment and plug my two books. This is Unapologetically Black, came out in 2015. That's me. Over in front of the White House. Charles Robinson said that I do not plug my books enough. I Am Black Wall Street. Talks about the history of the Black people who made it to Oklahoma. And Oklahoma, of course, is where the most famous of Black Wall Streets was established. Wanted to talk about world history today. I was watching a movie last night. It was about some Europeans going into Egypt. They did some clips about the history of Egypt. This movie was about some people who broke in, stole the graves, stole the tombs of African ancestors, Europeans. They go in, and I didn't really watch much of it. What got me, and I think the reason I ended up cutting it off, they started telling the story of Africa. It's always interesting when Hollywood starts telling the story of Africa, because somehow, even though Egypt is in Africa, the Egyptians seem to be white. Now, it's not like white people didn't live in Egypt or don't live in Egypt. I think, according to my dear friend Robert Scott, it was the Ptolemy. After Ptolemy, and if I'm not mistaken, he was the first white pharaoh. Then the storyline started to change. As you see the pyramids and what have you, the only black people you see in movies about Egypt are slaves. And the technology that the Africans have came from outer space. Certainly, black people couldn't come up with the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared, c squared, even though you see the perfect pyramids right there in Egypt. No. Even though the Egyptians built these pyramids perfectly, no, that science and technology came from outer space. You feel me? Figure me? Come on now. So anyway, as I was watching this movie, it dawned on me that we need to talk about a little history on this show. And this is not slighting anyone. This is actually some corrective measures to bring those of us who don't know into the light, those who want to know. World history, according to the American public school system, is always given to you from someone else's perspective if you look like me. And so when you want to know where your people fit into history, where that fit in, the story is not as clear, not as succinct. It's twisted. Parts are left out, omitted. They say that those who win the war get to tell the history. And so when I look at Black people in America, somewhere along the line, we lost the war. And we ended up in this situation. 13% of the United States. But even for that 13%, despite the negatives that are often reported, mass incarceration, fatherlessness, health issues, asthma, diabetes, and so on and so forth. This 13% of the population has significantly augmented the trajectory of the United States. I think we are a dynamic people. And today I just want to tell you that if you come from where I come from, you should be proud of yourself. Considering the attacks on the Black community daily, despite the mischaracterization, the misrepresentation, we are a beautiful people. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It's no slight to our white brothers, our Asian brothers, our Latino brothers, but this one here is world history from an African and Afrocentric perspective. It is important that we know our history, because if we don't, then we start to take on what America has done to so many of us. We start taking on the mentality that some other group of people are somehow superior to us. And that's dangerous. Didn't your mother tell you that nobody is better than you? You are no better than anyone else. I got that memo. You're not better than anyone, and no one's better than you. They put their pants on the same way as you. They have the same thing you have: 2 arms, 2 legs, fingers, toes. You have the same abilities as anyone else. But despite all of our accomplishments in every industry and discipline imaginable, from science, technology, to medicine, law, education, and to those other fields of endeavor that are closely associated with us, like sports and entertainment. We are a dynamic people, and we are more than just Herschel Walker. Trust and believe. It's really sad about Herschel Walker, werewolves and vampires. You're gonna put him up against a Morehouse man. But that's America, and that's indicative of exactly what I'm talking about. Somewhere along the line, Herschel Walker didn't learn his history. He didn't learn how beautiful Black people are. He didn't know that we are the fathers of civilization. And we have to take the good, the bad, and the indifferent with that, including slavery. We can't blame another people. I remember as a young kid complaining to my father about the white man, little kid. And he said, son, the first person you need to be mad at are those African kings who sold you into slavery. If in fact slavery was in our bloodline. Because until you've done the research, you don't know what's up your family tree. Slavery might not be up your family tree. You don't have to, it is not a rule that every Black person in America comes from slavery. I met a lady, Helen, what was her name? Dr. Helena Hicks. She traced her roots back to the 1700s, not 1 ounce of slavery in her DNA. Imagine that. Brings to mind Kendrick Lamar's song. We got royalty and loyalty up in our DNA. I don't know, I've been listening to too much Kendrick Lamar. But I love Kendrick Lamar. Brilliant young writer. Aware of his history, aware of his surroundings, aware of his role as an artist to inspire. That's what Lauryn Hill said. Music is supposed to inspire. That young man inspires me. And I hope you have some music in your life that inspires you. I think there's no greater gift than music. But getting back to world history, some things I want to share with you that you may not know. These are things I meditate on all the time. How many of us knew, for instance, the father of Russian literature is a Black man? If you knew that, put it in the comments. We'd love to see your comments. How many of you knew that a Black man was the father of Russian literature? His name was Alexander Pushkin. Who knew? Did you know? How many people knew that a Black man discovered the North Pole? Now, I thought to myself, that sounds cold. We Black, we like the heat. But not Matthew Henson, straight out of Southern Maryland. Matthew Alexander Henson, I know the name well, as did my other schoolmates and classmates who attended Matthew Alexander Henson Elementary School. He was cousins to Taraji Henson, according to my research. We learned that a Black man discovered the North Pole and that they didn't want to give him credit. They didn't want to give Matthew Henson credit for discovering the North Pole. They have repeatedly, and it's still written, if you can see it in some entries, they want to give credit to Admiral Robert Peary. couldn't have discovered it. Had frostbite, couldn't move. And we learned that lesson in 1971. First history lesson. And big ups to the principal. I think that was Miss Cornish back then at 29. Later became Miss Frisbee, daughter to Herbert Frisbee, the black man, science teacher, Douglas High School, who ensured that Matthew Henson got credit for discovering the North Pole. Herbert Frisbee, not a Baltimore man. How many people know that the oldest DNA on Earth goes back to Southern Africa? Don't take my word for it, Google it. Since that seems to be the way these days. Yes, the oldest DNA on Earth. I don't know if you ever heard it, if you never heard it. The oldest DNA on Earth comes from Southern Africa. The oldest DNA on Earth, and that's deoxyribonucleic acid. You know, that little swirly thing that has all of our attributes and characteristics from our bloodline going back to the beginning of humanity. The oldest DNA is found in Namibia. Look it up. The Son Bushman, my man, 500 grand all the way from Tampa by way of Sandtown. The oldest DNA comes from Southern Africa, a little country called Namibia. Namibia is right on the west coast, and South Africa to the south of it, Botswana to the east of it. Namibia, the San Bushman, S-A-N Bushman. Go look it up. They have the oldest DNA on Earth. What does that mean, Donnie? That means that every human being on Earth, Chinese, British, the French, the Italianos, the Russians. That wasn't a good Russian accent, was it? Comrade, the Russians. I got to work on that. Everybody, Filipinos, Chinese, Japanese, the oldest. I even saw a video on YouTube with these Chinese professors, Chinese scientists, I'm sorry. They were doing the DNA test. And what did they invariably find is what I just told you. The oldest DNA belonged to the San Bushman of Southern Africa. Now, you've seen the San Bushman, and maybe you just didn't realize it. The San Bushman, they had their face. When you look at their face, they remind you specifically of Nelson Mandela. And if there's someone that differs or disagrees, we welcome your comments. But when you look at Nelson Mandela, and I want you to hear me on this, especially Black people who have what some folk call Chinese eyes. Black people do not have Chinese eyes because Black people in Namibia were here first. Chinese have Black people's eyes. Look at the San Bushman. Don't take my word for it. Look at Nelson Mandela. And that's because we don't know our history. We don't know our history, so consequently we say things that other people have said. And so it's like misinformation building on misinformation, just like growing up and getting a lot of our education from the streets about everything from drugs to sex to whatever else. Little boys tell other little boys what they think they know, and, you know, misinformation gets carried on for generations. But we're here to set the record straight that Black people belong to the oldest race on Earth. And ain't no damn aliens do it. Now, I'm not saying that aliens don't exist, but the evidence shows that them Black people in Egypt built their own damn pyramids. And let's get this straight. Before the Great Pyramids of Egypt, you got to look at the pyramids of the Sudan. And the deeper you go into Africa, the blacker the bag. So you can get all the white people you want to play Egyptian roles in Hollywood, negating them jet black people all on the pyramid walls. You got jet black people on the walls of the pyramid, jet black. Black as this screen, jet black. They called it Kush, the land of Kush, Nubia. They called the European referred to the whole continent as Ethiopia. Let's see what this young man has to say. No, you missed it. You get it all twisted. Okay. Okay, Michael Haney. I see you're going to be a little difficult today. Mess my screen up fooling with you. Michael Haney, what I mean is when we see black people who have eyes that are tight, maybe Michael Haney, you'd be best serving yourself to go and Google the Son Bushman to get a better understanding of what I'm attempting to communicate to you. Now, however you want to get there, you do that. But like I told you, the Son Bushmen have the oldest DNA on earth. So therefore, in the face of a Nelson Mandela, you see every race on earth. Almost. Just about. I'll tell you something else we don't know. World history. Michael Haney might know, but I don't know if he's ever been to this next country, Brazil. Brazil. Now, if you look at a world map, notice how South America, see South America, that's South America, conveniently fits right up into Western Africa. So therefore, that was all one landmass. And Brazil and that southwest part of South America fits right into the west coast of Africa. It fits like a glove. It was one landmass. So when you learn, Michael Haney, that there were, good morning, Queen Quandra. When you learn that there are 40 million black people in America, 40 million. And by the way, we generate over $1.6 trillion in annual disposable income. And that's why we built this network, because we think we got everything we need in order to be successful, especially if we just, target a few of our disposable dollars to blackusa.news or Be More News. I know the Baltimore Sun and the Baltimore Banner sending you notifications every day to support their publications. I know black people that support the Sun loyally and royally, even though the Sun only says negative things about black people, traditionally, such that they had to apologize when the Banner came on the scene. But we have black media, blackusa.news, bemorenews.com. We have black media. Support your black media. You want to know how? Hit that button right there. Black Press Matters. That's why we're doing this event. We're doing this event to bring attention to the black media sources that we have, the very few, and how we need to take care of them. I get calls all the time when people get in trouble. I get calls from the jail. I get calls from the lawyer's office. Hey, Doni, from Hose Heights. Lady thanked me last night. They had a community meeting on Hose Heights. That's a story we've been following about the historic black community not far from Cold Spring and Falls Road, and they're making progress. As a matter of fact, they're going to be one of our honorees at the December 10th event, the Hose Heights Action Committee. Let's see what this young man wants to say. More black African slaves were taken to South America like 11 million. You're absolutely correct, Michael Haney, because, and who took them to South America? Was it the British? Who took those, the Africans? Because first of all, Mike, and the first point I wanted to make is that there were black people already in Brazil. When you look at the proximity of South America to Africa, however you want to shape it, at one point, that was one people. And that's why I think so many people in Brazil mirror people in Southern Africa. You know, the cheekbones, the forehead, much of one people. But be that as it may, there are 40 million black people in the United States, 100 million black people in Brazil. And yes, the slave trade was in South America 100 years at least before it began to flourish in North America. And so that's why when they tell you about the 1619 Project, that's through British eyes. That's through a British lens. The lens is British because they're not going to tell you about what the Spanish did or what the Portuguese did. They're only going to tell you about the British, who were late coming to North America compared to the Spanish and the Portuguese. That's why when you look at Louisiana and the Louisiana Purchase, before the Louisiana Purchase, the United States was only the East Coast. Remember, the first 13 colonies was all East Coast. Louisiana was a little bit in. That was like the next phase in. So after the Louisiana Purchase, the United States expanded from the East Coast to the rest of the country, for the most part. There were still territories that hadn't been rid of Indians, frankly. You're calling in the middle of the show, so clearly you want to say something to the audience, right? 9 o'clock in the morning. The whole world knows we're on the air. I was about to put them on blast. Every black business in the state needs to be buying an ad on a show with this network. Challenge them. Anyone who has a business appearing on a show in this network, anyone who has a business appearing on a show on this network needs to be called out. I totally agree. I totally agree. Support black media. That's why we're doing the event. We're not begging at all. We're going to keep producing. But it's so much nicer when you do have the support of your community. I watch us support every damn cause under the sun. Let something happen in Belgium. Oh, Belgium blowed up. Next thing, black people changing their profile picture. What's wrong with us? Don't we have, how many African nations can you name? And then you would say, oh, well, I ain't African. Yes, you are. We don't want to be African because of some of the things that have happened. I get it, but how American are you? Because this country seems not to want us either. Some of the people here. And then others of us, we get here and, you know, one of my favorite athletes starts saying some ignorant stuff on television about Africa. But that athlete has since gotten a better perspective. That athlete has since gotten a better understanding that he has a platform to reach millions of people, and he can't be on television saying ignorant things about Africa, just like some of our entertainers. I remember Betty Wright said some ignorant things about Africa. I've seen other famous black people say some ignorant things about Africa. And it's like, son, who did not teach you your history? They're your brothers over there. And we are the modern day Josephs, if you read the Bible. Joseph, if you recall, was sold into slavery by his brothers. But before the story was over, the same people that he sold Joseph into, Joseph became a leader and ended up providing food to the very brothers who sold him into slavery. That's some serious forgiveness. If you sold me And then where you sold me to, I find myself now the supervisor in charge of food. Do I feed the people who put me in slavery? That's some serious forgiveness. I don't know if I'm there. I don't know if I'm there. I'm working on it all the time because they say you want God to forgive you, you got to forgive others. But is there a limit? And that's what Quest, you got to check out Quest. He won't be on tomorrow, but our therapist, our resident therapist said, yeah, you got to forgive them too. I don't know about that. That's going to take some time. Especially when people keep on with the chicanery. Redlining for car insurance, redlining for homeowners insurance, discrimination in the courts, black man in jail for decades for something petty, yet a white man does the same thing, even worse, even more egregious, and he gets taken to Burger King. This country's unjust when it comes to black people in the courts. Let me tell you something else. Black people don't go to court without a lawyer. Do not go to court without a lawyer. I know you're listening to me. You know who I'm talking to. Don't go to court without a lawyer, period. And if you need a lawyer, we can try to find you one. I will certainly do my best. There are many people out here who will help you. Do not go to court without a lawyer. You do not speak legalese. I've seen in court, they start throwing them words around, and it's like the NFL. Boom, 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 boom. The next thing you know, they're up to the next case. And you're like, what just happened? You don't know because you don't have a translator. A lawyer is a translator. Don't go to court without a lawyer. I don't care what it is. Get legal advice. We advertise lawyers on the show. The Murphy Falcon Murphy firm. We advertise Robert the Shield, business attorney. For every different area, there's a lawyer, whether it's corporate law, business law, family law, criminal law. Somebody who's good at criminal defense is not necessarily, probably not your person for corporate law. Different specialties. We have to know our history. We have to know. Here's a piece of world history for you. I always want to share this. We are often told that Christopher Columbus and his lost self, the Moors were his GPS. We're often told that Christopher Columbus, the lie is he discovered the New World. And now this wasn't the New World for black people, for indigenous peoples. It was the New World for the European. The European had never been across the Atlantic. Does that mean that nobody else has been across the Atlantic? Does that mean that the Chinese didn't go across the Atlantic, that the Africans didn't go across it? Does that mean that? Doesn't mean it. I know what they told you, but did you ever go and look up for yourself whether or not any other group went across the Atlantic? Invariably, we have not. Most of us have not. We don't know that black people had ships. Yes, black people had ships. Look up the first ships. You think the Egyptians didn't have ships? How do you think they found them big stone heads, them Olmec heads down in Mexico, 2,500 years old, big stone heads, twice as tall as a human being? They brought them across the water, a bunch of them, the Olmec heads. And I don't care what mi compadre say there in America del Sur. When you look at them pleptoid noses and them full black lips, you know exactly where they come from, straight out of West Africa. You cannot mistake that. It is unmistakable, my brother. You cannot look at them big Olmec heads and think, oh my goodness, that is an African. You know that is an African. But America has us, ashamed of our blackness. Are you ashamed of your blackness? I'm saddened when I see my people putting bleaching cream to lighten up their skin. I'm trying to get as black as I can in the summer. I am. Of course, you wear your, protect yourself from the sun. But I love the sun. But we got black people who somebody has poisoned their minds into thinking that their blackness, that richness, that melanin is somehow ugly. We have to love ourselves, whether we like. My mother could damn near pass for white. My daddy was chocolate black. Shade and complexion did not matter in my household. What mattered was doing your damn job. That's it. But America's done a number on us. Paper bag tests. Light skin, dark skin. Light skin is in, light skin is out. Who comes up with this foolishness? It's all Willie Lynch to divide us. So now we looking at each other cockeyed. So we already battling a racist demon from the outside, and now we bringing that inside the household. You light or you dark, or that's your daddy. That's not your daddy. Just to further divide us. East side, west side, AKA Sigma, Zeta, Kappa. Who cares what light? We got light and dark in all of our families. You dig back far enough, you're going to find different than what you think. But we get caught up and we start embracing certain things and start taking on certain mentalities, mindsets that we have picked up in this contaminated place. Free yourself. Embrace your African ancestry. And if you ain't African, embrace your indigenous ancestry. Embrace your ancestry, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If there are generational things that need to be changed, then change them. Have the courage to change them. Stop letting other people define you. You define you. Nobody defines you but you. Know your history. Everybody got some bad things up that family tree, but that ain't the whole tree. That's just one segment of the tree. Some good up that tree. There's a lot of history up that tree, a lot of know-how, and thank God for everyone up that tree, because if it weren't for the people up the tree, we wouldn't be here. The good, the bad, and the indifferent. Nobody has a monopoly. We love decent people of all races. We don't like racists, but we don't like people trying to make us feel bad about our race because we beautiful and black, because they don't feel good about themselves, whomever they are, other black people or whomever. You should feel good about yourself. You should be proud of yourself. You should be thankful that we have life. Thank God our mothers didn't. I had people talking about their mothers. Quest was saying it on the show last Friday. Young lady was cussing her mother out, calling her mother bees. If your child is disrespectful to you, I hope you don't kill them. But you got work to heal that. You got work to fix that. I could not imagine being in that position. My child cussing me out, or my mom were alive cussing my mom out. Somebody need to jump in there and whip my ass. Cussing my mother out, whip his ass. I'm just going to say it, whip his ass. You got to get back to the basic values, old school. Say your prayers, do your work hard, save. Save more than you spend. Don't try to live up to some social media image of, buying European designer brands you barely can afford to impress people. Be black. Gucci. Everybody like a little Gucci. You really into Gucci. Did you know that those Coach bags cost about $12 to make? They use the goats in Ethiopia. I saw them when I was there. $12 is the most cost to make one of those Coach bags. Yet they sell it for hundreds of dollars. but the leather comes straight out of Ethiopia from the goats. It is made of leather, right? But we pay exorbitant amounts of money, not realizing we are the fashionistas of the world. Always have been. Well, anyway, those are some of my thoughts. I'm going to go back and read these comments. Let's check out Michael Haney. You did, Michael Haney? Was it on this network? Yes, we need to go to Africa. We want to go everywhere. Look, let me tell you something. No judgment. If you're interested in dating someone, I'm always curious to know where people have traveled. There are many places we can travel, but if a person's been all over Europe, a black person, been all over Europe, but they ain't never been to Africa, then I'm wondering why. Luanda, down in Angola, right? Some of the richest real estate in the world, because we want to go to where the fly Gucci stuff is. Well, the most expensive real estate in the world is in Luanda, in Angola. Luanda, some of them, let me make sure, but it's in Southern Africa. Is that right, Haney? Luanda? Is that Angola? Angola, capital of Angola, Luanda. Wealthiest real estate in the world. So black people, you want to be fly? For real fly? Richest real estate in the world, Angola. Check it out. Because we always want to be following somebody else. That's how we left West Baltimore and moved to Randallstown. And now we have abandoned West Baltimore. Thank God that a lot of black people in East Baltimore didn't abandon it, but some got displaced over there too. If these are in fact our neighborhoods, we need to claim them. We need to buy them. But knowing us, we busy moving out further and further away from the culture because we want to be down. But anyway, I ain't trying to make you feel bad. I love the county. It's a little too damn quiet out there for me, but I do like your deer, your bunny rabbit, and your foxes. Of course, in the city, we tend not to have deer, bunny, rabbit, and foxes, but triggers, rats, and roaches. That's the city. Let me tell you, I wouldn't trade the city for the county. Not me. I'm city all day long. Baltimore City. And we're politically astute here in Baltimore. I would say Baltimore City is more politically astute than Baltimore County. But Baltimore County is getting better. Talked to Council Chair Julian Jones yesterday. It's getting interesting out there. Julian Jones has to continue to show up support because he has a threat coming his way in the person of Izzy Patoka. And it's going to be real interesting to see how, if the community goes one way. We, in terms of the vote, we are African American. You see that African first. Wake up, people. Study your history and your heritage. And let me tell you, I do not know it all about our history, but I do know that we have done more than what this world gives us credit to. I tell you something. Look up the Jamon, Jomon. Look up the Jamon people. Look at some of those early blacks in Asia. Look up Fiji. Look up Fiji. Google Fiji, Fiji people, Fiji people. And then look at the images. You see cats with big old afros, bigger than Michael Jackson. Big old afros. But they not black, right? Did you know the first king of Hawaii is a black man? And I know I'm going to say it my way, King Kamehameha. I know that's not how I go. It's what I tend to remember. King Kamehameha. Kamea, or something like that. But him, got a gray bush, got a little royal vest on, first king of Africa. And let me tell you this, black people, I'm going to end off with this. Get this book, because in here, not only do I talk about how them black people got to Oklahoma, I also tell you that those freedom colonies, like Tulsa's Black Wall Street, like Seneca Village in New York City, damn near 100 years before Tulsa, like Weeksville in Brooklyn, damn near 100 years before Tulsa, like Durham and their Black Wall Street, like Richmond, Jackson Ward, their Black Wall Street, made famous by Maggie Lena Walker. I lost my train of thought. I was on a roll there, wasn't I? We got to know our history. We got to know that we have made an impact. And that impact is not, I know what I was going. Okay, I got it. See, if it's important, it'll come back to you. Not only do I talk about how those people got from Florida to Oklahoma, I also talk about the other freedom colonies. Have you ever heard, and I might as well just give you the daggone book, but I'm not. Have you ever heard of Emancipation? The Cradle of Emancipation is called Burlington Island. If you're in New Jersey, where my Jersey people at? Jersey is a place in New Jersey, called Burlington Island. I believe it's a Burlington County. As I was researching that book, I Am Black Wall Street, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, I learned that it is called the Cradle of Emancipation. I had never heard that. But I also talk about the freedom colonies in other places. But before I go too far, freedom colony. I told you the first blacks came to the Americas, the first enslaved blacks came not in 1619, probably 100 or more years before. That's why I don't just go believe in anything anybody says just because some other people endorse it. Wink, wink. 1525 is what I got. Spanish, I told you they were already in South America, but one of the early Spaniards who came to off the coast of South Carolina called himself bringing some slaves here. As the story goes, they beat him up and they fled into the Gullah Islands. The Gullah Islands, the Geechee Islands. Gullah off the coast of South Carolina, Geechee off the coast of Georgia, where they have maintained a lot of their African traditions. And I heard the food is banging. I don't know if you ever been there, Michael Haney, but I sure would like to go to the Gullah Islands. My granddad is from South Carolina on my father's side, Orangeburg. We got to know our history. If we don't know our history, we allow some idiot to come and try to tell us some stuff they don't know. Whomever that idiot is, regardless of where they come from, what they look like. Yes, we got to learn our history. But what I was getting to is that there were freedom fighters in other countries. We're not the only ones who had a Malcolm X. We're not the only ones who had a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Brazil had this cat named Zumbi. Check him out. Look him up. Google it. Use your damn smartphone. Let me show you how to. You know how to use a smartphone? Okay, so you go to Google, like I was already at Google, and there's a microphone. You see the microphone? Hit the microphone. Who was Zumbi of Brazil?
According to Wikipedia, the border between Brazil and Colombia.
No. Who was Zumbi?
According to Wikipedia, Zumbi, also known as Zumbi dos Palmares, was a Brazilian Quilombola leader, being one of the pioneers of resistance to slavery of Africans by the Portuguese in colonial Brazil.
Zumbi was the African king down there in Brazil. Zumbi. They got a big statue named after him. Zumbi. Now, they beheaded him at the end of the day, but Zumbi is a freedom fighter. But they'll never tell you about that in America because some people are so worried that black people will get so fed up with all of the chicanery that we have to go through, including mass incarceration in America, and they figure that we're going to revolt. Ain't nobody got time for that, man. We trying to get ready for the game on Sunday. What you worried about? Like somebody gonna come back and pay you back for what Your ancestors did. Ah, we good. But you can stop all of that dumb SHIT that you bringing our way on a daily basis. Again, people getting so excited about this sports betting. And for real, addiction is addiction. If you suffer with gambling issues, if you find yourself down Maryland Live at 7 o'clock in the morning when your hind part should be at work, you're going to lose your family. You're going to lose your home. And then you're going to be one of them homeless people that I got to deal with in my alley. And I'm really growing in that area. I'm really growing in that area. I'm really growing. I'm not as bitter as I used to be about the addicts in my alley who do not match the majority demographics of my community. I'm changing. I will not tolerate disrespect from anybody, including them. But I am growing. We all should grow. If you see somebody in need of something, I'm not that cruddy person. I'm not going to see you standing in the rain. I'm not going to see you hungry. I'm not going to see you cold. At the same time, you're going to show some damn respect. I don't think that's too much to ask. My grandma said, you don't speak, you don't eat. You can't speak? Okay. Grandma get in the kitchen, start hooking up them collard greens, that rice and that gravy. Because I was ornery. I didn't want to speak. I'm in there watching Captain Chesapeake. Oh, this lady keep bothering me. Hi, Donnie. Hi, Donnie. Donnie ain't want to speak. Ornery. Ooh. Granny had a way of breaking you down like a shotgun. You don't want to speak? No problem. That kitchen started breaking you down. You start, good evening. Oh, you can speak now. I could hear like yesterday. Go in there and wash your hands and sit at the table and act like you got some sense. Even if you don't. Did they throw that line in there on you, Michael Haney? Act like you got some sense even if you don't. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I didn't even get to the Moors. I told you that in 1492, Columbus came over here by way of Portugal and Spain. But I didn't tell you, prior to 1492, the Moors ran Portugal and Europe for 800 years. For 800 years, Madrid, the Alhambra was ruled, built by a black man. The Alhambra in Spain, in Español. ¿Qué pasa, señor? ¿Cómo está? El Moors, El Moors. The Moors were all across the Iberian Peninsula. The Moors were royalty in every European nation, from Germany to Ireland. Look it up. Coat of arms. Coat, I can put a coat on, of arms. Go to your smartphone. Go to Google. Moors coat of arms. And then you get to see the beautiful images of the Moors. The Moors. The Moors, these are crests. You know, when you look at the Wimbledon jackets and they got the little crest on the pocket, these are the crests. These are the African crests all across Europe that they will never tell you about, with black faces. Jet black faces. Ain't had a whole lot of light-skinned images over there. These coat of arms are jet black. You see them black people? Those are black people in Europe. Let's see where this one's from, because it's very intriguing. You got 5 minutes. Moors had heraldry, flags, and crests. That's what goes on the jacket, the lapel in one of those Wimbledon jackets, the crest. Okay, there you go. That's the family crest. Jet black, they're not slaves, they are kings. They are rulers. They are in charge, large and in charge. All day long. Do support our various shows. Mr. Michael Haney does a wonderful show on Sunday evenings, 60 Minutes in Black America. Also on Monday mornings, Wake Up Baltimore. Special thank you to Quandra. Quandra does a show on Wednesday nights, Political Cipher with Q. Nigel will be back tomorrow. And I really need a break. Maybe I should take a break. Hung out with some people last night in another part of the state. Woo, they wore me out. But I'll be here. But we have other shows. Martin Mitchell on Sunday morning. So proud of Mr. Martin Mitchell. Also very grateful for Richard Deshae Elliott. He does some articles. You can find them on bemorenews.com. Also, do check out blackusa.news. Robert Washington is our editor. I think Mr. Richard Deshae Elliott is on his way to becoming the editor of bemorenews.com. Let me say this. I wrote something last night, and I have to share this with you. I am not looking to do all of this work by myself. If there's one thing that I have failed on, it is in helping to build some new journalists. We do not have enough Black writers. If you are a writer, please come and write for us. Consider writing for us. And if you don't like us, so be it. Write for the Afro, write for the Baltimore Times, or write for one of these other publications. I'm pushing Black press, the Chicago Tribune, the Amsterdam News up in New York City, the St. Louis American out in St. Louis. That's a very fine paper. Did I say the Chicago Defender, Mr. Abbott Singstack? What Robert Abbott Singstack? What a phenomenal person. Marcus Garvey had a newspaper. Of all the things Marcus Garvey had, including a shipping line, he also had a newspaper. Frederick Douglass had a newspaper. Big ups to our sisters, Allison Dunnigan, one of the first Black ladies at the White House. Big ups to Ethel Payne, to Harry McAlpin. These are some of the first Blacks to ever make it to the White House. And so when I get the opportunity to go to the White House, that's nice. But what's even better is when I pass the ball and send other people to the White House. You get it? It's one thing to do something for yourself. It's another thing to help empower other people, like B. Gaddy did. And, you know, after all B. Gaddy did, these people still did not, you know, these so-called leaders. Because, you know, we get confused about this thing about leadership. It's only temporary. You're still a human being. But we get in there and thinking, oh, I'm such and such and such and such, and I'm the SHIT. No, you're not. Anyway, that's enough. My name's Donnie Glover. I hope you're doing well. Share some of this Black history. Do check out the books. I Am Black Wall Street, Unapologetically Black. Kudos to some of the mentors who have helped and shaped me along the way, including Jake Oliver over at the Afro, Charles Robinson, my big brother from WEAA. Those two have poured into me and shared. Wanda Draper wouldn't have a TV career if it weren't for Wanda Draper. She gave me a lot of love. Multiple appearances on Channel 11 providing political analysis. And we still, and let me tell you this, I don't believe in, you know, we should stay humble. But I got to tell you, this is a fact. This news outlet, bemorenews.com, and now the grandchild or child, Black USA. But Be More News is the only news outlet in this state to correctly predict the last 4 governors. None of them did it. And we endorsed them, including O'Malley. Early wasn't going to win in the comeback in 2010. It was over. It was ding, ding. And O'Malley, to his credit, has stepped back out of the way to allow Kathleen Kennedy Townsend to get out there and run one of the worst campaigns in the history of the state of Maryland. I will say I hung out with Victor Clark yesterday, and he shared some things with me about Baltimore history that I can't wait to bring him on the show to discuss. That's Catalina Bird's daddy. Have a good day, Baltimore. My name's Donnie Glover. Be nice to somebody and be a blessing to somebody. Get your final thoughts in. Yes, sir. Ashe. Good morning, world.